The morning air was cold, quiet, and heavy with uncertainty. The women sat silently near the wooden barracks wrapped in worn coats that no longer felt warm. They had arrived only days earlier, exhausted after weeks of movement across ruined roads and collapsing front lines. No one told them much, only that they were now prisoners. And prisoners didn't expect kindness. Footsteps approached. An American guard walked toward them, carrying metal trays. Behind him came two others balancing large containers that released clouds of warm steam into the morning air. The women exchanged nervous looks. Food usually meant something simple: thin soup, dry bread. Quick rations meant only to keep people moving. Nobody expected anything more. The trays were placed down. The smell spread first. Warm bread, something buttery, something fried. One of the women frowned, whispering quietly, "Is this for us?" No one answered. The guards began handing out plates, one by one. Each plate looked almost unreal compared to what they had known for months. Soft biscuits, thick gravy, eggs, pieces of sausage. The youngest prisoner hesitated, gripping the plate carefully as if it might be taken away. Another woman leaned closer and whispered, "They must be testing us." But the guards simply stepped back. No shouting, no commands, just silence. A few moments passed before anyone dared to eat. One woman finally broke the tension. She took a small bite, expecting disappointment. Instead, her eyes widened. The flavor was rich, warm, heavy, comforting in a way she almost forgot existed. Around her, others slowly followed, first cautious, then faster. The quiet camp began to fill with something unfamiliar: soft laughter. Someone shook her head in disbelief. This can't be normal. An older prisoner stared at the food for a long moment before speaking quietly. If this is prison, then the world has changed. Across the yard, one American guard watched silently. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just observed as tensions slowly melted into something softer. For the first time since arriving, the women weren't thinking about the war. They were thinking about breakfast, and none of them understood why. The question hung silently between them. Is this really allowed? By the time the breakfast ended, the story had already started moving. Whispers traveled faster than footsteps. The women returned to their barracks carrying the memory of warm food and confusion that felt heavier than hunger. Some laughed quietly, others stayed silent, still trying to understand what had happened. One voice broke the silence. "They gave us real food, for no reason." Another shook her head. "No one gives something for nothing." The idea settled in the room like fog. Maybe it was a strategy. Maybe they were being observed. Maybe the kindness was temporary, something that would disappear tomorrow. Outside, more prisoners arrived from work details. They noticed the unusual energy immediately. What happened? The answers came all at once. Biscuits, hot gravy, sausage. Enough for everyone. Some didn't believe it. One woman laughed nervously. "You're making that up." But then she saw the empty trays stacked near the kitchen area. Proof that the rumors were real. That evening, the mood inside the camp felt different. Not happy, but lighter. Small conversations started between women who hadn't spoken before. Someone joked that the Americans must have mistaken them for guests, instead of prisoners. Another whispered, maybe the war really is ending. But not everyone was convinced. Near the doorway, an older prisoner watched quietly. "This is how people become soft," she said. "You forget where you are." The words brought silence back for a moment. Across the yard, American guards walked their usual patrols. Calm, distant, professional. No one shouted. No one rushed them. It felt ordinary, and that was the strangest part. Later that night, as lights dimmed, the youngest among them stared at the ceiling of the barracks, replaying the morning again and again. She remembered the taste, the warmth, the moment everyone stopped being afraid, even if only for a few minutes. And a new question formed, one that spread quietly through the camp as sleep finally came. If breakfast felt this human, what else might change tomorrow? The next morning, everyone woke earlier than usual. No one said it aloud, but the same thought lived in every mind. Will it happen again? The women lined up quietly outside, pretending to act normal. Conversations were short, nervous. Some tried to look indifferent, as if yesterday had meant nothing. but they all watched the kitchen area. Minutes passed. Then the carts appeared. Steam rose into the cold air. A soft ripple moved through the line. Disbelief mixed with relief. It wasn't exactly the same meal as before, but it was warm, prepared, and more generous than anything they expected. One woman whispered, "So it wasn't an accident." Still, many hesitated. They had learned during the war not to trust sudden comfort. Good moments often came before something difficult. As trays were handed out, a strange calm settled over the camp. The guards remained quiet, focused only on keeping order. No mocking, no shouting, just routine. While eating, a few prisoners noticed something unusual. An American medic walked slowly between the tables, stopping to check on several women who looked tired or unwell. He spoke softly, offering simple instructions and passing small packets of medicine. This made the whispers grow louder. Why would they care? They don't have to do that. Across the table, one woman studied her food instead of eating. Back home, breakfasts had once felt ordinary, something rushed before work or school. Now every bite felt heavy with memory. The war had reduced life to survival. Yet here, suddenly, there were moments that almost felt normal. Almost. Later that day, work assignments continued as usual. But something had changed. The women walked straighter. They spoke more. Even the guards seemed less distant. Still professional, but no longer viewed only with fear. As evening came, a quiet discussion started in one of the barracks. "What if they're trying to show us something?" someone asked. Another replied slowly, "Maybe they just want the war to end, too." Silence followed. No one answered. But no one rejected the idea either. Outside, the lights of the camp flickered on. And, for the first time since arriving, the atmosphere felt less like a prison and more like a waiting room between two different lives. Still, uncertainty remained, because deep down, everyone wondered. How long could this feeling last before reality returned? Days passed. The breakfasts continued, sometimes simple, sometimes better than expected, but always warm. What changed most wasn't the food itself. It was the silence. At first, the women had eaten carefully, watching the guards, waiting for hidden meaning behind every gesture. But slowly, that tension faded. The camp didn't become comfortable. It didn't become home, but it became predictable. And after years of chaos, predictability felt almost like peace. One morning, as sunlight touched the wooden tables, the youngest prisoner paused before eating. She watched everyone around her, women laughing quietly, others sharing pieces of bread, someone helping another carry a tray. Small things, normal things. Across the yard, an American guard noticed her looking. For a brief moment, he nodded, not as a soldier to a prisoner, but simply as one person acknowledging another. She looked back at her food. For the first time, the question that had followed them since that first meal finally answered itself. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a test. It was simply the way this place chose to move forward while the world outside slowly ended its war. She took a slow breath and began eating. Around her, the camp felt quieter than ever. Not because of fear, but because something heavier had finally lifted. The war was still real. The future was still uncertain. But for a few minutes each morning, there was warmth, and that was enough. And later, many would remember not the fences, not the uniforms, not even the hunger, but the moment they realized kindness could exist in unexpected places.